Hey, fifth grade, coming to you again live from Lee Summit with another installment of The Lightning Thief, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Book 1 by Rick Riordan. We are up to Chapter 5 now, and I read this to you with permission from Disney copyright, Disney Publishing. They said I can do it as long as I'm not getting rich quick off of it. So, Chapter 4, we left off. Poor Percy watched his mother dissolve into gold light, and now he thinks that she's dead. And he's there with Grover, and he's awakened in a place he doesn't know. Remember, he has conquered and defeated the Minotaur. His whole life has just completely been turned upside down, and he says he wakes up with a familiar-looking bearded man and a pretty girl. So chapter 5 is called I Play Pinochle with a Horse. Now, if you want to know what Pinochle is, I'll tell you. Pinochle is, according to Google, it's an ace-10 card game, typically for 2 to 4 players and played with a 48 card deck. So, I think I will post directions for Pinochle and how to play, because some of you might have some playing cards at home, and this would be a really fun distraction on these days. So, here goes nothing. I play Pinochle with a horse. I had weird dreams full of barnyard animals. Most of them wanted to kill me. The rest wanted food. I must have woken up several times, but what I heard and saw made no sense, so I just passed out again. I remember lying in a soft bed being spoon-fed something that tasted like buttered popcorn, only it was pudding. The girl with curly blonde hair hovered over me, smirking as she scraped drips off my chin with the spoon. When she saw my eyes open, she asked, "What will happen at the summer solstice?" I managed to croak. "What?" She looked around as if afraid someone would overhear. "What's going on? What was stolen? We've only got a few weeks." "I'm sorry," I mumbled. "I don't..." Somebody knocked on the door and the girl quickly filled my mouth with pudding. The next time I woke up, the girl was gone. A husky blonde dude like a surfer stood in the corner of the bedroom keeping watch over me. He had blue eyes, at least a dozen of them, on his cheeks, his forehead, the backs of his hands. And if that isn't a vision of weirdness, I don't know what is. When I finally came around for good, there was nothing weird about my surroundings except that they were nicer than I was used to. I was sitting in a deck chair on a huge porch gazing across a meadow at green hills in the distance. The breeze smelled like strawberries. There was a blanket over my legs, a pillow behind my neck. All that was great, but my mouth felt like a scorpion had been using it for a nest. My tongue was dry and nasty, and every one of my teeth hurt. On the table next to me was a tall drink. It looked like iced apple juice with a green straw and a paper parasol, guys, those are those little umbrellas, stuck through a maraschino cherry. My hand was so weak I almost dropped the glass once I got my fingers around it. "Careful," a familiar voice said. Grover was leaning against the porch railing, looking like he hadn't slept in a week. Under one arm he cradled a shoebox. He was wearing blue jeans, Converse high tops, and a bright orange t-shirt that said Camp Half-Blood. Just plain old Grover, not the goat boy. So maybe I'd had a nightmare. Maybe my mom was okay. We were still on vacation and we'd stopped here at this big house for some reason. And... "You saved my life," Grover said. Well, the least I could do, I went back to the hill. I thought you might want this." Reverently, he placed the shoebox in my lap. Hey guys, reverently is very seriously and with very much respect, as if you would hand it to a king, very carefully, very gently, with the utmost respect. Inside was a black and white bull's horn, the base jagged from being broken off, the tip splattered with dried blood. It hadn't been a nightmare. "The Minotaur," I said. Percy, it isn't a good idea." "That's what they called him in the Greek myths, isn't it?" I demanded. "The Minotaur, half man, half bull?" Grover shifted uncomfortably. "You've been out for 2 days. How much do you remember?" "My mom. Is she really..." He looked down. I stared across the meadow. There were groves of trees, a winding stream, acres of strawberries spread out under the blue sky. The valley was surrounded by rolling hills, the tallest one directly in front of us. Was the one with the huge pine tree on top? Sorry, I messed that up. The valley was surrounded by rolling hills, and the tallest one directly in front of us was the one with the huge pine tree on top. That's what a good reader does, guys. If you're a good reader, does it mean you have to be perfect every time you read or every second? No. It means that you know how to self-correct. It means that as you're reading along, you're like, ooh, that's not right. And you go back and fix it. And I am not perfect. I make mistakes. So hopefully you see that modeled correction. But even that looked beautiful in the sunlight. My mother was gone. The whole world should be black and cold. Nothing should look beautiful. I'm sorry, Grover sniffled. I am a failure. I'm the worst satyr in the world. He moaned, stomping his foot so hard it came off. The Converse high top came off. The inside was filled with styrofoam except for a hoof-shaped hole. Oh, sticks, he mumbled. Thunder rolled across the sky. As he struggled to get his hoof back in the fake foot, I thought, well, that settles it. Grover was a satyr. I was ready to bet that if I shaved his curly brown hair, I'd find tiny horns on his head. But I was too miserable to care that satyrs existed, or even minotaurs. All that meant was my mom really had been squeezed into nothingness, dissolved into yellow light. I was alone, an orphan. I would have to live with Smelly Gabe? No, that would never happen. I would live on the streets first. I would pretend I was 17 and join the army. I'd do something. Grover was still sniffling. Poor kid. Poor goat, satyr, whatever. Looked as if he expected to be hit. I said, it wasn't your fault. Yes, it was. I was supposed to protect you. Did my mother ask you to protect me? No, but that's my job. I'm a keeper. At least I was. But why? I suddenly felt dizzy, my vision swimming. Don't strain yourself, Grover said. Here. He helped me hold my glass and put the straw to my lips. I recoiled at the taste because I was expecting apple juice. It wasn't that at all. It was chocolate chip cookies. Liquid cookies. And not just any cookies. My mom's homemade blue chocolate chip cookies, buttery and hot, with the chips still melting. Drinking it, my whole body felt warm and good, full of energy. My grief didn't go away, but I felt as if my mom had just brushed her hand against my cheek, given me a cookie the way she used to when I was small, and told me everything was going to be okay. Before I knew it, I'd drained the glass. I stared into it. Sure, I'd just had a warm drink, but the ice cubes hadn't even melted. Was it good? Grover asked. I nodded. What did it taste like? He sounded so wistful I felt guilty. Sorry, I said. I should have let you taste. His eyes got wide. No, that's not what I meant. I just wondered. Chocolate chip cookies, I said. My mom's. Homemade. He sighed. And how do you feel? Like I could throw Nancy Bobo fit 100 yards? That's good, he said. That's good. I don't think you could risk drinking any more of that stuff. What do you mean? He took the empty glass from me gingerly as if it were dynamite and set it back on the table. Come on, Chiron and Mr. D are waiting. The porch wrapped all the way around the farmhouse. My legs felt wobbly, trying to walk that far. Grover offered to carry the minotaur horn, but I held on to it. I'd paid for that souvenir the hard way. I wasn't going to let it go. As we came around the opposite end of the house, I caught my breath. We must have been on the north side of Long Island, because on this side of the house, the valley marched all the way up to the water, which glittered about a mile in the distance. Between here and there, I simply couldn't process everything I was seeing. The landscape was dotted with buildings that looked like ancient Greek architecture. An open-air pavilion, an amphitheater, a circular arena, except that they all looked brand new. their white marble columns sparkling in the sun. In a nearby sandpit, a dozen high school-age kids and satyrs played volleyball. Canoes glided across a small lake. Kids in bright orange t-shirts like Grover's were chasing each other around a cluster of cabins nestled in the woods. Some shot targets at an archery range. Others rode horses down a wooden trail, and unless I was hallucinating, some of their horses had wings. Down at the end of the porch, two men sat across from each other at a card table. The blonde-haired girl who'd spoon-fed me popcorn-flavored pudding was leaning on the porch rail next to them. The man facing me was small but porky. What's porky mean? It means he's a little chubby. He had a red nose, big watery eyes, and curly hair so black it was almost purple. He looked like those paintings of baby angels. What do you call them? Hubbubs? No, cherubs, that's it. He looked like a cherub who'd turned middle-aged in a trailer park. He wore a tiger-patterned Hawaiian shirt, and he would have fit right in at one of Gabe's poker parties. Except I got the feeling this guy could have outgambled even my stepfather. "That's Mr. D," Grover murmured to me. "He's the camp director. Be polite. The girl? That's Annabeth Chase. She's just a camper, but she's been here longer than just about anybody. And you already know Chiron." He pointed at the guy whose back was to me. First, I realized he was sitting in the wheelchair. Then I recognized the tweed jacket, the thinning brown hair, the scraggly beard. "Mr. Brunner!" I cried. The Latin teacher turned and smiled at me. His eyes had that mischievous glint they sometimes got in class when he pulled a pop quiz and made all the multiple choice answers B. "Ah, good, Percy," he said. "Now we have 4 for Pinochle." I'm going to stop there, and I will post the other half of this because, again, I don't like to go over between 10 and 15 minutes for these. So I will post this first, and then I will post the second half of the chapter in the same day. But I hope you see that the action, the story is unfolding in very interesting ways. So, ... Look for the next half in just a few minutes.